Here's Muffin Ninjas. All right.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name's Stephen. I'm part of Team Muffin Ninjas, and we're here today to present to you our application property hookup. Next slide, please. Before we show the application, we'd just like to quickly introduce the team. So I've introduced myself already. There's also Darren Evans, who unfortunately isn't able to join us today. There's also Nathan Page-Jones and Jez Blackmore. Next slide, please. Okay, so before we actually show you the application, we'd just like to give you a bit of information about our journey, how we come up with the idea, and where we are today. So with the idea conception, what we wanted to do, we didn't want anything too gimmicky. We wanted an application that actually met a specific need. So we looked at the basic human needs, and one of those being shelter. So we felt the property market might be a good place we could make an application. So we wanted to make a property app that makes a stressful event stressless. It's often said that the most stressful event in your life is often actually moving house. So we felt that's something what we could solve here with our application. And it's a cheap alternative to an outdated estate agent model. As you can see on the infographic at the bottom, the average cost of selling a house is at £5,723. That's information from January 2022. And we feel with this application, we would have a mass market appeal. We're trying to, for people trying to get on the property ladder and also for existing homeowners. Okay, next slide, please. I'm now going to pass you over to my colleague, Nathan. He's going to give you a quick demonstration of how the application works.
Right, guys. So first you'll be prompted to log in. So we can just do that with Google and Auth0. Quite simple. You can just continue with Google. And this will take us to our swipe page where we can see houses. And yeah, we wanted to resemble a dating app. So you can swipe right if you're interested, swipe left if you're not. The thumb up and thumb down buttons do the same as the swiping. And yeah, you can click through different pictures of a house. And when you swipe right, it'll save it to your house list here. So we can get rid of ones that we don't want with that bin button. And we can get in touch with the seller. So that's being shown now. We wanted to do this to eliminate the need of any third-party estate agents. You can just we thought it'd be easier if you can just get in direct contact with the seller, and the seller can get in direct contact with people who are interested. So yeah, just like that, we've ordered a viewing of the house. Right, so here's the add property feature, and this is what you'd use if you're using the app to sell a house. So all I'm doing here is pressing choose file, selecting a picture from my file explorer and pressing uploads. So yeah, that's happening now. We've got a little progress bar there. Yeah, so we wanted to make this form quite easy so anyone could use it pretty much. We wanted to make it like a one size fits all because, you know, who wants a complicated form? Just putting the information in now, and once you press submit, that should be available for other people to see on this page. So here's our user information. You can change stuff if you want, and here's the settings. This is where you can filter the results you see on the swipe page. So you can change postcode, radius, minimum, maximum price, and house type. And once you press save changes, those will update on the main page. As you can see, it's updated. And that pretty much wraps up the demo. And now I'd like to pass over to Jez, and he'll talk about the technology choices.
Okay, thanks, Nathan. So first I'll be going through our backend technologies. So we decided to use an SQL database hosted on Heroku, SQL as opposed to NoSQL, as we feel it's more efficient at processing queries and joining data tables. We also feel it's better for scalability should our app grow in complexity. We'd be able to implement the logic more succinctly. We used Node.js for our server with the Express NPM package, Express having built-in functionality, making it easier to manage HTTP requests. We used Jest for test-driven development, promoting the test, then code approach, reducing the number of bugs in production and improving our code quality. For the chat feature, we used Socket.io, allowing us bi-directional communication between client and server. During the spiking phase, we did look at Firebase chat feature. How we chose Socket.io as we felt it would give us more control We also wanted to learn about WebSockets and the underlying principles of the TCP layer. We felt implementing the feature ourselves would allow us to understand this better. For Auth0 authentication, we did use Firebase as it was easy to implement. And from a user's perspective, we felt signing in with Google would promote a higher level of trust and improve the sign-in and onboarding experience. Firebase file storage was also chosen as we felt it had good documentation and user-friendly setup process. For the postcode geocoding, we used geocoder.npm package, which uses a third-party API by MapQuest. So no geocoder also had good documentation and online support. And MapQuest is just one of Northcoders' supported providers. So next slide, please. Cheers. So now I'll go over the front-end technologies. So for the front end, we used React, which includes React DOM and React Router. We made use of the context API, passing down our global states. During spiking, we did consider using React Native. However, we decided we could demonstrate our concept just as well with a responsive web page. And we also wanted to improve our technologies that we already had experience with. So for the HTTP fetch requests, we just use Axios. For the chat front end, we use Socket.io client, which allows us to establish like an easy connection between the front end, back end, and React. Also on the front end, for file storage and Auth0, we used Firebase, which I've already mentioned. This felt like a fast and secure way of both hosting files and user authentication. This all adds to the user journey and hopefully makes their interaction more seamless whilst building up trust between the client and our app. And now I'll pass you back to Stephen, who's going to talk about our challenges.
Thank you, Jess. Okay, so with challenges, often with any project, especially coming in at the start, can feel very overwhelming. Looking how many things you've got to do, where do we start? So a big part of our challenge, we knew there was going to be challenges coming in, but we were ready for those. Something we used straight away was Agile. And what we did was we looked at our end goal first and say, what is actually we want to produce at the end here? Once we had that in our mind, we were able to navigate to that end goal, even if it meant changes need to be implemented along the way. So with Git was handy for allowing us to work on separate branches while we were looking at different features. And then before we could merge those back into a main branch, what would happen is we'd have to have the rest of the team authorize that. So code could be checked, make sure there's no bugs in there, and then we can merge that back in. If anything did come through, we'll be able to revert back using Git. So it was a fantastic technology for us to use throughout the project. A big part for us was spiking. A big part of this project for us was both looking at our current technologies we already knew, and we wanted to go in a bit more detail, go a bit deeper into those technologies, but we wanted to branch out as well and bring new technologies in. So we had to do some spiking to see how that would work. An example of this is at first for our file storage, we thought AWS would be an obvious answer, but admittedly, we didn't know too much about it at that point. So after a quick spiking process of AWS, we actually realized this would not really meet the needs of this project here. So we had to have another meeting. We reorganized that, okay, let's go and do another spiking on something else. We looked into Firebase, and Firebase seemed to tick a lot of boxes for us for the photo storage. So we end up implementing that into the project. Auth0 was another issue we come across. The reason being, when you're implementing new technologies, ultimately, until you've done it once, you don't know how it works. So we actually had a plan to do Auth0 a bit later into the project. In hindsight, it would have been much nicer to put that in early because it had a lot of features that actually meant we had to do a lot of refactoring because it was ticking boxes we didn't know it would tick. So we had to go back, we refactored and implemented that. But ultimately, it was worth it because it really added to our user experience and it helped us with that security and the fluency of the logging in. Next slide, please. Okay, and that is the end of our presentation today. So thank you very much for your time. If anyone has any questions, we would welcome those now.
Give it up for the Muffin Ninjas, ladies and gentlemen.